The coffee stain. The scalding liquid hit Marcus Chen's $1,000 suit at exactly 9:47 a.m. Emma watched in horror as the entire contents of her oversized mug, French vanilla with extra cream, still steaming, spread across the chest of Vertex. Technology's CEO, like a slow-motion disaster she couldn't stop. The white porcelain mug bounced once on the marble floor of the executive corridor and shattered into a dozen pieces. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Emma dropped to her knees, frantically grabbing at napkins that had scattered from her bag, her hands shaking so badly she could barely hold them. This was it. 3 months at her dream company, and she was about to be fired by the man himself. Not HR, not her department head, the actual CEO. Marcus stood perfectly still, coffee dripping from his silk tie onto his Italian leather shoes. Emma dared to look up at his face, bracing herself for the fury she'd seen him unleash in the legendary boardroom meetings everyone whispered about. But he wasn't angry. He was staring at her laptop bag, which had fallen open in the collision, more specifically at the worn notebook that had tumbled out, its pages covered in colorful sticky notes and hand-drawn diagrams. Is that... Marcus bent down, his coffee-soaked shirt squelching as he moved. Is that a redesign of our user interface? Emma's face burned hotter than the coffee had been. I'm so sorry, Mr. Chen. I shouldn't have been carrying that here. I was just heading to the file room. And I wasn't looking where I was going, and... The navigation sidebar. He picked up the notebook, seemingly oblivious to the coffee still dripping from his clothes. You've consolidated 12 steps into 4. Yes? Emma's voice came out as barely a whisper. I use our software every day for data entry, and I kept thinking if I could just move this here and eliminate that redundant confirmation screen. She trailed off. What was she doing? She just assaulted the CEO with hot coffee, and now she was presuming to tell him how to run his billion-dollar company. Marcus flipped through the pages, his expression unreadable. How long have you been working on this? About 2 months. Just in my spare time. Not on company hours, I swear. I know I'm just in data processing, and it's probably completely useless to someone who actually knows what they're doing. It's brilliant. Emma's mouth fell open. Marcus looked at her properly for the first time, his dark eyes intense despite the absurdity of his coffee-stained appearance. What's your name? Emma Reeves. I'm really truly sorry about your suit. How many employees do we have in data processing? The question threw her. About 300. Across all the regional offices? And how many of them, Marcus said slowly, have taken the time to map out solutions to problems they encounter every single day, without being asked, without expecting recognition, just because they wanted to make things better? Emma had no answer for that. None, Marcus said. In 15 years of running this company, the answer is none. Do you know how many consultants we've paid millions to redesign this interface? 4 different firms, and not one of them produced something this intuitive, because not one of them actually uses the software the way you do. He closed the notebook carefully, as if it were valuable. My office. 30 minutes. I need to change shirts. He glanced down at himself and for the first time smiled, just slightly. Unless you'd like to throw something else at me first. Emma couldn't tell if he was joking. 29 minutes later, Emma sat in a chair outside the CEO's office, certain she was hallucinating. Marcus's assistant, a sharp-eyed woman named Patricia, had given her water and a kind smile that did nothing to settle her nerves. When Marcus emerged in a fresh suit, he wasn't alone. He'd brought the chief technology officer, a woman named Dr. Sarah Okonkwo, who Emma had only ever seen in company-wide video calls. Show her, Marcus said simply. For the next hour, Emma walked them through her notebook. She explained how the current software forced users to switch between 3 different screens for a single workflow, how the error messages were technical jargon that meant nothing to actual humans, how a simple drag-and-drop feature could save each employee approximately 45 minutes per day. You calculated the time savings? Dr. Okonkwo leaned forward, suddenly animated. Yes, I timed myself for 2 weeks, doing tasks both the current way and the way they could work. Across all data processing employees, we could save about 22,000 work hours per month. Marcus and Sarah exchanged a look Emma couldn't interpret. What do you know about our innovation initiative? Marcus asked. Emma blinked. The what? Exactly. Marcus leaned back in his chair. 3 years ago, we launched a program specifically designed to capture ideas from employees at every level. We created an online portal, sent monthly reminders, offered bonuses for submitted ideas. We've received exactly 37 proposals. Most of them were jokes. He gestured at Emma's notebook. But here you are, solving real problems without any incentive except your own. Frustration with inefficiency. Why didn't you submit this through proper channels? Emma felt her face heat again. I didn't think anyone would listen. I'm just data entry. I figured there were people way smarter than me already working on this stuff. Do you know what the biggest problem in corporate America is? Marcus stood and walked to his floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. It's not lack of talent or resources. It's that we've created structures where people at the bottom assume people at the top have all the answers, and people at the top assume people at the bottom aren't thinking about solutions. He turned back to face her. I started this company in my garage 20 years ago. I was the one doing data entry. I was the one staying up until 3 a.m. fixing bugs. But as we grew, I got further from the actual work. I got surrounded by people who tell me what they think I want to hear, not what I need to hear. Sir, Today you didn't mean to get my attention, Marcus continued. You certainly didn't mean to ruin my suit. That slight smile again. But you showed me something more valuable than any carefully prepared pitch could have. You showed me someone who cares about their work enough to try to improve it, even when no one's watching. Dr. Okonkwo pulled out her tablet. How would you feel about joining the product development team? We need someone who understands the user experience from the ground up. Emma's heart hammered. I don't have a degree in computer science. I studied business administration at community college. Good, Marcus said. Every person on that team has a CS degree. Not one of them has your perspective. That's what we're missing. But I don't know if I'm qualified. Emma. Marcus's voice was gentle but firm. 3 hours ago you were terrified you'd get fired for spilling coffee. Now you're turning down an opportunity because you don't think you're good enough. Do you see the pattern? She did. She'd spent her whole life assuming she belonged at the bottom. That ambition was for other people. That her ideas didn't matter because of where she sat on an organizational chart. What if I fail? She whispered. Then you'll fail while trying something difficult, which is more than most people can say. Marcus picked up her notebook and handed it back to her. I've made 17 failed businesses before Vertex succeeded. I've hired people who looked perfect on paper and couldn't perform, and people with no credentials who changed the company. The only pattern I've found is this. Bet on people who care. Everything else can be taught. Emma looked down at her coffee-stained notebook, filled with months of work she'd done just because she couldn't stand inefficiency. She thought about her mom, working 3 jobs to put Emma through community college, telling her that hard work would be enough. Her mom had been right, but Emma had been wrong about what hard work meant. It didn't mean keeping your head down and accepting your place. It meant having the courage to believe your ideas mattered. Okay, she said, her voice stronger now. Yes, thank you. I'll do it. 6 months later, Emma stood in front of 300 employees, her former colleagues in data processing, demonstrating the new interface. The system she'd designed with the help of the product team she now co-led. The system that had just won them a major industry award. As she clicked through the simplified screens, she saw heads nodding, heard murmurs of appreciation, watched people lean forward with interest instead of the glazed-over resignation she used to see in training sessions. After the presentation, a young man approached her nervously. Ms. Reeves, I had an idea about the reporting module, but I wasn't sure if... Let me stop you right there, Emma said, smiling. Email it to me, today, and don't ever assume your ideas don't matter because of your job title. Trust me on that one. That evening, Marcus stopped by her new office, still modest, but with actual walls and a door. Good presentation today, he said. Thanks. Did you see we've reduced processing time by 60%? I did. That's not why I'm here, though. He pulled an envelope from his jacket. I wanted you to have this. Inside was a photograph. Marcus, soaking wet with coffee, staring down at her notebook on the floor. Patricia had apparently captured the moment. Why would I want a picture of the most embarrassing moment of my life? Emma laughed. Because that moment changed everything. For you, yes. But also for this company. Marcus leaned against the doorframe. We've received 412 submissions to the Innovation Initiative in the last 6 months. 412. Do you know why? Emma shook her head. Because you proved that speaking up works. Because 300 people in data processing watched. Someone like them get promoted not for playing politics or having the right degree, but for solving real problems. He smiled. Your coffee stain cost me $1,200 in dry cleaning. It's earned this company approximately $8 million in efficiency, gains and immeasurable value in changed culture. After he left, Emma pinned the photo to her wall. Not because she was proud of spilling coffee. She'd probably never fully recover from that particular humiliation, but because it reminded her of something she never wanted to forget. Sometimes your biggest mistakes crack open doors you didn't know existed. Sometimes the thing you're most afraid of doing, speaking up, sharing ideas, believing you matter, is exactly what the world needs you to do. And sometimes kindness isn't about grand gestures. It's about a boss who could have yelled, could have fired someone, could have walked away brushing off both the coffee and the person who spilled it. Instead, he stopped. He looked. He listened. He saw not an accident, but a person worth paying attention to. That choice, to respond to an everyday disaster with curiosity instead of anger, with possibility instead of punishment, didn't just change Emma's life. It changed how an entire company saw itself and each other, all because someone spilled coffee, and someone else decided to look past the stain to see what really mattered. The end.